for to colleague Eda.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
I remember the name, but not so.
Not a problem. Hello, dear teachers, all of you, welcome. I am Eda from Yıldız Technical University from Turkey. Today, I'm going to introduce you the sixth module. Up to now, we are familiar with the modules, but this is different the others, not so much different, just this is the easier one because this is just the traditional module. You don't need to use any digital tools in that module. In that module, activities are very important because we don't have any tools to use for students. There's a story in this module, and there are a lot of activities about them. First of all, we have objectives about the module. Our team is share and care. The other lecturers mentioned about the abbreviations of this, but I want to say again, S4 is storytelling skills for students, C is for cognitive skills, and A is for affective skills. I want to read them because these objectives are very important for the activities. These are written according to activities. You will find these objectives when you are doing the activities. For example, students will be able to explain how the structural elements of the story, such as events, person, place, and time, are situated in the text. Students will be able to explain the main idea of the story. Students will be able to create their own stories based on a story they have read. These are about the storytelling skills. And look at some cognitive skills. Students will be able to evaluate events from different points of view. And for affective objectives, students will be able to explain the significance of sharing. These are our objectives, and you can find your files also. You can read them before the lesson, and you can act in your classroom according to them. First, we have 5 activities, and as our other colleagues mentioned about that, they were written according to 5E instructional model. First one is sharing is good. Students will watch the video, sharing is good, and answer the questions. Then question and answer part is coming. Students will answer the question on question answer paper. You will need here in these activities, you will need, of course, a computer for the animation video, and usually you will need papers to distribute to the students. And then it's coming brainstorming. Students will express their ideas on sharing through brainstorming. I will explain how you will do these activities. And then it's coming creative writing. The story Apple Tree and Rose Tree will be rewritten by changing the characters. Here our main story is Apple Tree and Rose Tree. We will see then the story. And 5, the last activity is students will evaluate themselves with self-evaluation form. Here, the materials you need in your lessons, as I said, there is no digital tools, but you need a computer or students' smartphones and papers and pencils. You saw yesterday this 5E instruction model. So I think you are familiar with the steps. First one is engaging, introduction to story, animation, discussion. Second, explore, problem solving. There is question answer part and discussion session. Explain, there is brainstorming and discussion. In elaboration, creative writing, scenario, change the characters. And evaluation part, self-evaluation form. Students will evaluate themselves with a form. First, teachers needs to lead students to guess the story they are going to watch from its title in the first engaging activity. This is like before the lesson, preparing for the story, preparing students for the story, what they will learn, what they will discuss. For example, firstly, you can ask students about the title. What do you think about the title Apple Tree and Rose Tree? You can ask them to guess what can it be about. And later, there's an animation video. We chose that according to our team. And I want to open it. First, this animation, I want to say, this animation is to get the attention of the students before the here we want you to stop the video and ask your students what can be happen from that
What's next?
event. What's next? And I want you also, I want to ask you, because when we first watched that video, we thought that the younger man is very disrespectful to the older woman. What do you think about it? What can it be happen?
I know the rest of the videos.
Apparently, he's disrespectful.
Yeah, we also thought that. Yeah,
Apparently,
oh, he's really,
he understood his actions as something that he shouldn't do.
yeah.
He's just a teenager,
And
being a teenager.
and there's a woman. She's very older.
Yes, and she doesn't respect.
She, when she banged that machine, she put her cookie in a bag.
Yeah, maybe.
And there is no showing that
Okay.
she put it out.
Yeah, maybe. And we want this. We want you to make that, stop the video and create a discussion environment for your students and let them to express their ideas about that. Oh,
Yeah.
the sharing is good, really. Okay, now okay, there's my picture for this. Okay.
Yeah.
This is our first activity for the preparation for the lesson. So you need just a computer or your students' mobile phones to watch it and to create a discussion session with your students. As I said, this is the traditional version of the module. So in this module, it's important to ask questions, to make these activities with your students and to let them express themselves, their ideas. And after the video, you can ask, what do you think is the main of the idea of the animation? Start a discussion on sharing in accordance with students' answers. I think they will find it funny because we did like that. And in the other part, question and answer session is coming. Here, we have our apple tree and rose tree here.
Apple tree and rose there.
Yes, yes. If you want, we can read it. Is anybody volunteer to read? Okay.
I can read it if you want.
Okay, you can. Umut
I
hocam,
read
thank you.
already yesterday.
Yeah, okay.
I'll continue the tradition. Apple tree and rose tree. The apple tree and the rose tree grew side by side in the same garden. When summer came, the rose tree began to constantly boast of its beauty. No one is as beautiful as me, she said. You may be bigger, but I bring pleasure to people. I am definitely more important. My friend, said the apple tree. Beauty is one thing, kindness is another. What do you mean? Said the rose tree. What could be more important than what I give to people? We'll see, said the apple tree. When autumn came, the apples on the branches of the apple tree ripened. One day, a group of children passing by saw the fruit. They immediately jumped into the garden. Someone picked up a stone from the ground and threw it at one of the apples. He missed, but the stone came to the branch of the tree and shook it. Then many apples fell to the ground. The children picked the apples and ran away. Meanwhile, a child who saw the rose tree wanted to pick a rose from it, but a thorn pricked his hand. When they were gone, the apple tree turned to the rose tree and said, do you understand now? When someone asks you for a rose, he gets pricked by thorns, but I give apples even to those who throw stones at me.
It's a very short story. I think it's understandable, and students generally like to read short stories. They are usually not boring for students. So there are also other messages in this text, but with our team, it's sharing, share and care. So here is the apple tree emphasis. The sharing is a good thing for everybody. Apple tree is sharing its apples with everybody, and it's useful for people. It's more important than being beautiful. With the emphasis that. And also after, of course, this story is very short, but we prepared some questions here for you to make with your students. For example, as I mentioned about the objectives, the stories, pilot characteristics, features, you can find with these answers, with these questions, what are the features of apple tree and rose tree? For example, there are in the story apple trees features and rose trees features in the story. So you can ask your students, and you can want them to say it or write it. It's up to you. Why does the rose tree see herself superior? You can want your students to explain their ideas about, so you can understand whether they understand the story or not. And fill in the blanks, apple tree and rose tree, it will be done to the, according to the story, and they should fill in the blanks here. How is apple tree comparing himself to the rose tree? There is a comparison here, so they can explain their ideas. They can compare the story's main things, apple tree and rose tree. What is the main idea of the story? This is an important question here. Of course, I'm saying here quickly, but in a discussion environment, it can be longer, and that also should be like that. Based on the story, what can you say about sharing? So you can take your students' opinions about sharing. What do they think about that? Are they allowing to share? And brainstorming, there's coming brainstorming. This is one of the most enjoyable activity with your students. First of all, you know how to do brainstorming. You can ask your students, do you share when your friends ask you of something? How do you feel when your friends ask you of something? Here also you will take their opinions about sharing, and you can write on the board or just let them to say their opinions about that. And what comes to your mind when I say sharing? And start brainstorming. As I said, you can write to the board so every student can see, and they comment to each other also. And when you ask that question, and when you make a brainstorming, we also leave that situation. There are coming a lot of ideas from students, very different, very original. So I really like brainstorming activities. And a sample of brainstorming is given below. For example, we thought that when sharing tells us peace, love, attachment, something like that. I'm sure students will say more original things from us than us. And creative writing here is also important, because writing skill is difficult for all of us and for students. But if it's enjoyable activity, if it has enjoyable activity, it's becoming easier. And here, asks your students to rewrite the story apple tree and rose tree by changing the characters. And to change of course, the title for their new stories. This is a short story, very simple, and you can ask them to write a new story like that. maybe they can use another fruit tree, or they can use animal. This is up to your experience, and you can lead your students according to their questions. And in evaluation part, students will be able to evaluate their stories with self-evaluation form. After they wrote their stories, they will evaluate themselves. It can be also peer evaluation, but here it's easier to evaluate themselves because they will write their story, and sometimes they can feel humiliated when they are evaluated by others. So we thought that self-evaluation is better than in this way. You can ask, here are the self-evaluation form is for you. So there are criteria. You can say your students that you should evaluate yourself according to these questions and according to your story that you wrote. For example, what did I learn in this activity? It's simple because when discussed that activity, that story, they can write what they think. What have I found difficult in this activity and why? For example, here they can say, for example, I found difficult to write a new story. So I realized that my writing is not so good. They can realize that, or they can realize something good for them. I paid attention to spelling rules in my story. They will evaluate themselves. I chose an appropriate title for my story. I use different points of view in my story. That's the self-evaluation form, and these are the criteria so they can evaluate themselves. That's all. Thank you for listening to me.